What I'm doing here is basically I bought these Sonoff switches because I wanted a way to control my lights in my house remotely and voice control. I found these by doing a bit of research online, that these were the easiest way to go, and once I actually hooked it up, I realized you actually lose control of the normal light switch that's in the wall. So after some research, I noticed that a lot of people were actually reprogramming the Sonoff devices and putting different firmware on them. Now, I know basically how to do that, but I'm not an expert on that type of stuff, to be totally honest. So I wanted an easy way to do this. But what I worked out is with the Sonoffs, you have a momentary button on the top of the Sonoff. So you can press this button, that'll turn the light on or off. But that, if it's in the wall, it doesn't really help. So I wanted a way of using the momentary button but as a light switch. So basically what I've done is I've wired up through the hole that's already in the side of the Sonoffs when you get them, because that's for the temperature and humidity sensor normally on this model, the TH10. But I've wired this up to control the momentary button, and what I've done is I've got some of these Clipsal 30 BPP momentary push buttons switches. These are 16 amp ones, which you don't need that many amps really, but what happens there is you can replace your normal switch with one of these. So just remove the old switch from the back, so they just pull out. So you take your old switch out, your normal switch, so if that's your normal light switch, these ones, that's all they are. They're a momentary button as well, so they don't stay on, they just activate once pressed and then deactivate again, which is the same as what happens on the top of the Sonoff. So this, then all you need to do is clip that in to where your old light switch was. That becomes your new light switch, and these wires, these will connect to, if you're looking at it this way with your little T at the bottom here, one wire needs to go into the top hole just here, this one here, and one wire needs to go into the center hole, which is that one there. So once you put these wires into there and they're connected to the Sonoff in the right position, then you'll be able to do the same thing as what pressing the button on the Sonoff does, which is activate the switch and deactivate the switch. So I'll show you the internal wiring. It's very simple. I'm not a very good solderer. There is some soldering involved, but I'm in no way an expert at that. But I'll show you what you need to do to wire this up to make it work. Okay, so I've just removed all the screws to make it easier to show you. So you just take the top cover off. Now remove the screws from the board as well. So that's inside the TH10. This is the momentary button just there. Now if we just turn that over, what I've done is on the bottom, you can see, so these 4 pins here, these two and these two here, that one and that one, they're the bottom of the momentary switch. Okay, so if you put a multimeter across them and you touch this point and you touch this point here, then activate the switch by just pushing it down while you've got the multimeter across it. The easiest way is to just put it onto the table, and then put your multimeter on there and just push the whole board down onto the table so it activates while you're holding the multimeter. You'll obviously create the circuit and do the beep on the multimeter if you've got it on the beep test. Only across from that way to that one, and from that one to that one will work. Soldering from that one to that one will not work, or from that one to that one will not work either. So my two wires go off to the side. The most important thing is when you're soldering this is make sure you do not get any solder on any of the other circuits or anything around there. You've got a few resistors and stuff like that nearby, so you've got to be very careful you don't get any solder shorting anything else out. So it is quite fiddly, but if you've got something to hold your board and a little magnifying glass, that's all I used, and that will work. So then all you need to do when you put it back together, just make sure when you put it back together you feed the wire through the side hole in the Sonoff first, and then screw it all back together. Yeah, and once I put this one in the wall, I'll show you how it works. Okay, so this is my Sonoff now installed in the wall, wired to the main power. Power's off at the moment. If you do live in Australia, you do need to get an electrician to do this for you. Any work with mains power you can't do yourself unless you're a qualified electrician. Otherwise, if you're in other countries where you can work on the power yourself, this is how it's wired up. Okay, so we have one red going on, which is the live input. We have a neutral going in to one of the neutral ports, and then we have another red one going out, which is the output to the actual light globe. The other output for the neutral for the light globe is wired in with these ones, and the earth is wired in with these ones. So now all I have to do is this wire here. I need to wire up to the new switch. This is the old switch here. This is a normal light switch. So that will become a momentary switch. So I'll just wire that up quickly and then I'll show you how that works. Let's pop the old one out like that. This is our new momentary button just here. Click that in place like that. I'll just wire this up quickly. Yeah. So it doesn't matter which way these wires go in. Okay, we can see that that's now wired up. So I've got one in the middle one, that's the T that I showed you before. One in the middle hole, one in the end hole. Doesn't matter which way these wires are, as long as you've got one in there and one in there, then that'll work the same as the momentary switch on the top of the Sonoff here. So what I'll do now is I'll turn the power back on and we'll pair this, and I'll show you how it works. Okay, now I just wanted to show you to get it to pair. In the instructions it tells you to hold this button for 5 seconds and then wait for it to start flashing fast. I found that it goes into this 3 flash mode first though, so you're going to hold it for another 5 seconds. And then it goes into the fast flashing pairing mode. So this is the flash type that you want to see when you want to pair the device. When you open your app, you'll see there's a little icon on when you're trying to pair it that flashes the same speed as this does. So that gives you an indication of what you want to be seeing on the device when you're pairing it. I'm just going to pair it and then we'll test it. Okay, so as you can see, it's all back together. The Sonoff device is in the wall behind the switch. I have a new push button switch here next to the normal light switch. The normal light switch, that's just for my fan that's outside. Now we'll just make sure this is working. So if I press this, then yeah, you probably saw it get brighter in here. Turn it off. And it also works with the Sonoff app as well. I also have up above here, I have a EweLink smart sensor on the ceiling, so that whenever anyone walks into the garage, that gets activated. And I will be linking that up to the Sonoff device as well, using if this then that. So I can also create a tutorial on that as well. If I get enough likes on this page and comments, I'll also do a tutorial on that, as well as a tutorial on how to link your Sonoff switch to the Google Home using if this then that. Also, so if I get enough likes and enough comments on my page, I'll do both of those tutorials. And don't forget to subscribe as well, to follow Smart Home for Dummies. Thank you.